She's been nominated for BAFTAs and Golden Globes, but now Sienna Miller says that she's taken on her most emotional role so far.
Well, she's playing a woman who finds herself wondering if she's dead or alive following a devastating car accident.
Wow. And Sienna joins us now. Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
All right, thank you. So here we go. Here's a couple, just had a baby, beginning to fall apart. Things aren't looking particularly good, as we saw there in the clip. Then there's this terrible accident. And the opportunity to, I mean, it's very confusing for her. She has no clue whether she's alive or dead, but the ability to go back and almost look to see where it all went wrong.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I love most. They kind of go on this journey together back to the beginning of their relationship as a couple in this kind of surreal state. And they kind of can break the scenes. They're in moments in the past and they can kind of talk about them from the present. It's really hard to describe this film because it's in a kind of magical surrealism, but it's deeply grounded in something truthful and romantic and really an interior look at grief, which I think is something that the world is feeling right now. So it's actually quite good timing.
And actually, although it's surreal and all of that stuff you just said, it is based on a true story.
Somewhat. So the director, Tara Mealy, who's amazing, she had a car accident with her husband and was very, very concussed in the aftermath and had this moment where she called to her new baby and the baby ignored her and she wondered whether or not she died in that accident. It was like a split second, a fleeting thought, and then from that moment came this idea.
And so a big challenging one for you. The script grabbed you right from the word go, and you said that immediately you felt the emotion in it.
Yeah, I did. Actually, every time I read the script, I cried. I think it's just sort of had everything that I was looking for, and that idea of nostalgia and going back and examining relationships, and it was just it has such a twist at the end, and I didn't see it coming. And so every time I read the script, I would be in floods of tears.
And you've described it as your most challenging role to date. Is it hard when you have to immerse yourself into a character like that so much to be able to switch off from it?
You know, it's kind of hard, but I hate hearing actors talk that way. That it definitely kind of infects your mood to a certain degree. And with something like this, it was an independent film and we were shooting 17, 18-hour days and really hopping about from intense grief to something happy. And the schedule was just all over the place. So I was really exhausted, but my daughter refuses to let me do an accent when I'm at home. I used to read her bedtime stories, whatever accent I was doing. That's banned. I can now only speak in my own voice, and I'm allowed to do the accent once I get in the car. So,
and did you manage to stop traffic filming, stopping traffic? You get 1 minute to shoot a scene because you've stopped the traffic.
Yeah, on a smaller budget thing, you can't sort of own the street because it costs a fortune, especially in LA where we shot this. So we would have the street for a minute, and there was this scene where I had to jump out of a moving car, fall apart, probably more than I've ever had to fall apart in any film, which I tend to lean towards really heavy emotion for some reason. That will change. I want to be tap dancing next. Yeah, and then they have to release traffic. So there's a 10-minute break of you trying to stay in whatever zone you're in and then go back into it. So it was really, I'd love to say that I loved making this. I'm really happy with how it turned out, but it was the most challenging thing, for sure.
And you know how it turned out. And I was quite surprised to read this morning, that you don't watch back films that you've been in, but this one you did. So why this one and not the others?
I think this one got into Sundance, and it was such a labor of love to get this made. And you always kind of gamble when you're making an independent film. It can also just disappear and never come out. And so the fact that it had gone that far and gone to Sundance, and it was such a celebration, and it was also such a film that was going to be made in the edit with all the effects. I was really curious to see how that worked, because at the time of filming, it didn't feel like it necessarily would. And I'm really glad I did watch it, because I was blown away by what they'd made, not myself, which is always really hard to watch, but also it was the last time I was in a cinema.
Oh, so good old days.
No way, nearly, it's coming back, it's coming back.
Oh, yes, 21st of June.
Because obviously Adrian is a mum. You've got Marla, who's 8, and you said an interesting thing about the fact that you were a new mum. When you're a new mum, especially looking at this movie, people expect you to be in this blissful bubble when it's not actually always like that, and that did remind you of earlier times. Yeah,
I think I love that the script began with a couple a year into having a baby, and and really dealing with some challenges in their relationship. And I remember when I had Marlo, yeah, people would phone and say, I'm sure you're in your blissful little bubble. And I was obsessed with my daughter, but I was also in absolute hell because you lose 24 hours sleep overnight, a week. I was like, you spend so much time preparing for the birth and then you have to take the baby home. And I didn't know what I was doing. It was intense. I also had a really traumatic birth. So the whole thing was just I felt like I'd failed at something. And by not being blissed out in the initial stages of parenthood. And I kind of like that the script deals with that. And obviously having spoken to lots of mums in the aftermath, I think it's not an uncommon feeling to be really overwhelmed and find things hard.
Absolutely. How, therefore, has lockdown been for you? I hear you've been doing a bit of hairdressing.
Yes. My dad always said that if I was going to be an actor, I needed a full black plan. I finally found one. I am a pretty remarkable hairdresser. Kitchen scissors. I cut Marlo's hair from there to there on Sunday.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yes.
That's pretty. And you've made dumplings for the first time, and you've made a hover car.
Did I made it hover car? I mean, that makes me sound like the most amazing mother. We've also been on the iPad, and yes, it's been challenging. The first one was sort of a novelty. This one is definitely dragging. Although today the sun is shining, and that does make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
Really
It's lovely
does.
to talk to you.
It
Thank
is.
you.
Thank you.